So just for a bit of fun, over the last month, we have been asking you guys to take part in a current account World Cup tournament. Effectively, I selected 12 different current accounts, put them into different groups, and you guys voted for your winner of each group. Then it went through to knockout. The top winner of each of those went through to a semi-final, 2 semi-finals, and the winner of each semi-final went through to a final. So what I'm going to do now is just reveal how that went, the progress of that, which banks did well, which ones didn't do well at each stage, and effectively who you have ultimately selected winner of that 2025 current account World Cup. So how did we choose these banks? Well, I arbitrarily picked 12, which I thought are the 12 best current accounts out there, at least at the time of choosing them. We'll explain in a minute why that's not always the case right now. But this meant that they gave you something in return. Now, it could be an intuitive and easy to use app. Really make that banking experience so much better. It could be there's some kind of reward. Maybe that is cashback or a monthly perk, or potentially high interest on a linked saver that you can only get if you have that current account. There's also one in there as well, which I've put because it is a particularly ethical account as well, and that might be something that is really important to you. Now, these 12 accounts, I whittled it down. Obviously, there are many, many, many more that I could do from that. I also made sure there was only one current account from each bank. So let's say, for the example, of Monzo, as you'll see in a moment, there is just the standard free Monzo account. Even though I do really like the Monzo Perks account, I just went for the single Monzo account, for example. And by doing this, by picking these 12, it also means a number missed out. And you might think, well, why aren't these ones here? Well, that's because if they do offer anything, it's not very good, or they don't offer anything at all. So there's no HSBC, there's no Barclays, there's no Virgin Money. Yes, okay, I thought about it. They did have that 10% regular saver last year, which some people will be coming to the end of now. But other than that, now, a year on, there's not really much going on there. There's no cooperative bank, and there's no Bank of Scotland, and so on, right? These are just the 12 accounts, which I think are pretty decent. Now, I've randomly allocated them into 4 groups. So where they landed, you could have had what I would have picked in the top 3, potentially could have landed up in the same group, ultimately straight off. But we've gone with, so Group A, which I thought actually was a very strong group here. All of these were accounts, which I've said to you guys many times before, they are definitely worth having a look at. So Group A was the Club Lloyd's account, Nationwide's Flex Direct, and the Santander Edge. Okay, so all accounts, which I said to you guys were worth looking at. The Club Lloyd's, for example, that offers free cinema tickets or free Disney Plus for a year for not much effort, as well as a 6.25% paying monthly saver, which is one of the, it's fixed at 6.25 and you can put £400 in. So ultimately, it's one that's going to get you particularly the highest amount of actual interest money back in your account after a year. Combined, I reckon it's worth about 230 quid a year. And that's before you even take into account any bank switching offers, I should say. So that was a Club Lloyd's. Nationwide Flex Direct, that one offers 1% cash back on spending, 5% interest up to £1,000 for the first year only. You only get it once. And that, to me, as an account, is okay. But obviously, where it's done particularly well over the last 3 years is giving that fairer share payment. That's £100 people got each year. And there was another 50 quid this year because they took over Virgin Money. There's a thank you payment for that. Also, as a building society, it's a strong ethical choice. And so the third one in this group, the Santander Edge, though it recently dropped its debit card cashback, so not as strong as it was just a month ago, you can still get 1% back on your bills, which offset that fee. And what I really like about it is it opens up that exclusive 6% Edge saver, only up to £4,000 you can save in there. But if you did that, that's worth 233 quid, maybe another 15, 20 quid on top of that from cashback. So, all of these are getting you money back. So the big accounts, which I thought this is probably the strongest group out there. But the voting was nowhere near as close as I expected. Here, the Santander Edge account received just 15%, the Club Lloyd's 31%. So it was a Nationwide Flex Direct that progressed to the semi-final stage from this first group with a huge 54%. So let's look at Group B next. This one's a little bit different. Only one reward account here. The other two are much more about the app and the general banking experience. The first one of those is Crew, probably the newest bank on the entire list, the entire tournament. It's still got some catching up to do, but the app, I say, is pretty decent. It does offer, if you want interest in your current account on the money in there, this is one of the better options out there, one of the highest paying ones there. Yes, you can beat it on savings accounts and other places, but if you want it in the current account, that is a nice little feature they offer. And then we have the NatWest Reward account. So this is the only reward account in this group. not a massive amount of money you're going to get from that, 36 quid, but it does mean you can get, on top of that, the 5.5% paying digital regular saver. Now, technically, RBS does exactly the same thing with its digital regular saver, and technically you don't need the reward account to get it, but ultimately putting that together, it's a decent little package there that's worth looking at. And what I really like about that regular saver is you keep earning that interest until you reach £5,000. Most regular savers stop after 12 months. So it's one that will keep earning you a high rate once you've got to that full amount. And finally, the bank that I actually use for most of my daily banking is Starling. It is one of the best apps out there. It has absolutely really changed, I think, how so many people who use it bank, and a lot of the other banks are trying to catch up with it. It also is one of the better options if you want to avoid the less ethical banks out there. So again, I've kind of thought, Starling, I'm a big fan of it. I advocate it to you guys, and I thought that would win, and it did. But it was really, really, really close. 47% of the vote to Starling, 45% to the NatWest Reward account. And then Crew, not unexpectedly, it's a newer bank. It doesn't offer a huge amount, picks up a lower 8%. So that means the first semi-final is going to be between Nationwide's Flex Direct and Starling. So let's carry on though. Let's look at Group C, the third of the four groups. Now this one, the first one here, the Halifax Reward account. This has been my top reward account for years, offering £5 a month. And since you've been able to get 3 of these accounts, that's potentially £180 a year. So really a high value one available there. But that's also up against Monzo. We know how popular Monzo is, and I rated the app amongst the best ones out there, particularly after a redesign, I don't know, 18 months ago or so. Again, no particular perks with the standard Monzo one, but it's still a really, really, really strong current account out there. And the third one here is the outlier in all the group stages, as you don't actually get a reward, you don't necessarily get a better app experience, and you have to pay for it. So you're going to be effectively losing money to have it. But this is Triodos, and it is head and shoulders above the rest when it comes to ethical banking. If you want to ensure that your money, when it's held in the bank, is not used for things that you don't agree with, such as funding new oil pipelines or investing in the arms trade, things like that, then you want to go with Triodos. Yes, there are other options. I mentioned Nationwide, Starling as also good ones to consider, but really head and shoulders above the best to say is Triodos. But you do pay £3 a month for that peace of mind. So out of those, I think if the vote had taken place just a few weeks earlier, I think that Halifax Rewards account would potentially have done really, really well because of that 180 quid a year if you had all 3 of them. But as I told you in late May, that £5 perk, or you could choose a free cinema ticket, but that perk is ending in September. And certainly I'm confident that hit its polling, and deservedly so, right? Because what they've said so far about what's going to replace it isn't that exciting, although we're still waiting on more news on that. Even so, it did pick up 39% of the vote. And considering that is up against Monzo, which is again an incredibly popular app, with 55%, that did really well. But again, I think that's kind of skewed. Obviously, it would be much lower if we did it in a month's time or something. And Monzo probably would have got an even higher share of this particular group. Triodos, just 7%. But again, that was always going to be the case for something which not so many people have as an account. But anyway, that means Monzo was through to the second semi-final. And let's have a quick look again at the last group here. Now, this one is all digital banks. Not a single one of these has a branch, although for many people that doesn't matter so much now. But first one here was Chase. Now, again, the Chase current account has been one of our top picks since it launched. And I was wondering, though, whether the cuts that the cashback offering have been introduced recently and savings rate kind of being diminished for lots of people over this year would hurt its chances. Certainly would have been, I think, a big, strong contender last year if we'd done this. But this year I wasn't so sure. Also in this group is First Direct. Now this First Direct always does well for customer service. So again, customers are potentially quite loyal here. And also you've got that 7% linked regular saver, a fixed 7%. So I'm a big, big fan of this one because that means you are guaranteed if you have a current account, open up that regular saver for 12 months, you will be getting 7%, albeit on only up to £300 you can save each month. But that is, I think, the best one out there. Yes, there is the new 7.1% from the Zopa Biscuit account, which was introduced too late to introduce this poll, but that is variable. So I would still go over the First Direct one for that. And finally, Revolut, which technically isn't a fully licensed bank, but it does offer a current account, which does most of the things that you want to be doing with it. I've never personally been a huge fan of it, but they did revamp the app last year, and it's pretty impressive. I do think the app is a good one to go for. And I know, again, a really popular account there with some people. In the end, though, Chase just absolutely stormed through to the take that last semi-final place with 61% of the vote, the clearest win of all the groups. First Direct picked up 26% and Revolut just 14%. So there we go. We have our two semi-finals, our last four teams. That first semi-final, the Nationwide Flex Direct versus the Starling account. So bizarrely, well, not bizarrely, interestingly, Nationwide was my Flex Direct was my main account before I switched over to Starling. And one of the reasons I'd made that move was because I found the Nationwide app really frustrating. You had to use a card reader all the time and stuff like that. So I moved over to Starling, and I've really, really enjoyed using Starling. I say enjoyed, but you know what I mean. I found it a great account to use. I was very, very, very surprised, pleasantly surprised, I should say, though, that Nationwide absolutely blow Starling out of the water. 69% of you voted for Nationwide Flex Direct to go through to the final over Starling. Okay, so the next semi-final, Monzo versus Chase. The two kind of really, really popular brands out there, I would say, for those digital banks. People are evangelical about Monzo, and I see that Chase account a lot. I introduced a lot of friends to Chase a few years ago when there was a refer a friend scheme, and they always say to me, oh, I never would have known about that if it wasn't for you. And they like it, and they like how it works as an app, and they like the cashback and savings interest, albeit they have been diminished. So again, I expect this to be really, really, really tight here, but it wasn't. Chase absolutely romped past Monzo. 64% of the vote to just 36% for Monzo. So Chase versus the Nationwide Flex Direct is our final. Really, really interesting matchup there. And it's not what I expected. I thought Chase possibly could get there, but I really didn't expect to see that Building Society Nationwide get all this way. And so we are through to the final. Nationwide Flex Direct has made it all the way to battle against the Chase current account. Now, this is not necessarily what I expected for these last two accounts. I certainly didn't expect Nationwide to get this far. But what it does show, I think, is that particularly knocking out the likes of Starling and Monzo in the last round, that an app is great. They got that far, but people want more. They like more. And those Monzo and Starling accounts didn't offer anything, but Nationwide and Chase, as we've said, give you something extra. And of course with Chase as well, also has a particularly good app on top. Well, in what, at least to me, feels like a shock result, but maybe not to you guys, Nationwide Flex Direct absolutely kicks some ass again here. 57% of the votes over Chase's 43%. So that is a clear win for the Nationwide Flex Direct account. And I say it might seem like a shock result, but actually, is it really when you come down to it? For a start, what has Chase been doing this year? I mentioned this already. It has been reducing the perks that really made it stand out. So people might still like the app. They might still like the experience. They might still like 1% cash back on groceries and travel and petrol costs. They might still like the high-ish interest rates on savings and all that kind of stuff and the ease of use. But those savings rates can be beaten elsewhere. The cashback can be beaten elsewhere. The app is still strong, it's still good, but I still think it can be beaten elsewhere. So yes, it's a strong account, it's a popular account, but it's not as good as it was. And I think that kind of sense probably lost some votes there along the way. Nationwide, meanwhile, has really been upping its game over the last year, 2 years, if not 3. They've given away, as I said, £100 fairer share payments to qualifying customers. Not everyone was happy with that, but as long as you met the criteria over the last 3 years. There was another 50 quid this year they gave away as well. They've been given, every once a year, customers have been able to get a high-paying fixed 18-month savings account. There's been decent bank switching bonuses there as well. And it's also made promises to keep its branches open, where all the other banks are close them as they go along. And actually the app is catching up as well. I still think it has a long way to go to be as good as Chase, Monzo and Starling, but you rarely now need to use that dreaded card reader, why I ditched it all those years ago. And again, it has that nice ethical edge to it. If you're choosing between Nationwide and Chase, and ethics are something that's important to you, then you absolutely want to go with Nationwide over Chase. So ultimately, I think it's a well-deserved congratulations to the Nationwide Flex Direct account, which is the 2025 Be Clever With Your Cash current account World Cup winner. If you want to find out more about all of these accounts, just head over to becleverwithyourcash.com/banks. My name's Andy Webb. Thanks so much for watching. Check out these videos here for more ways to make the most of your money.